Want to? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Community Board 10 Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. My name is Anthony Marino, and I am the new chair of this committee, and this is my first meeting, so thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to it. We are here tonight at Park Asia Restaurant, thanks to the kindness of its owners, and I want to thank especially Maggie Gu, who was very helpful tonight. Thank you, Maggie. She helped getting all this technology for us. It was very difficult for the staff to find a location, so we're very happy to be here. There's only one item on the agenda tonight. The Department of Transportation is here to present its 7th and 8th Avenue one-way conversion proposal from 39th Street to 66th Street. This project impacts 3 community boards, 7, 10, 12, and the CB10 portion begins at 62nd Street. I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight in person. This meeting will be live streamed on YouTube, so if anyone wants to let anyone watch from home, you can just let them know to go to our website, and the link can be found there for the YouTube. At this time, I want to introduce and recognize the Department of Transportation, Leroy Branch, who is here representing the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner Keith Bray. And he will be shortly introducing his own team. Andrew, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Inglesby is also here from NYC Transit MTA. But I think first we're going to have, yeah, go ahead.
我帮他翻译一下，这个是我们第10社区委员会交通委员的会议。因为今天交通局在提了一个针对我们7大道、8大道单向改道的这个计划。它涵盖的区域是7大道、8大道从39街到66街，所以总共影响的社区委员会包括第7社区委员会、第10、第12。那这里是第7，那第7社区委员会的区域是从62街到这个计划的66街，所以是下面这一块。但是今天的这个计划是由交通局的代表出来。针对整个计划，对社区做一个说明，这样他们社区委员会在最后投票的时候，才会有一个比较具体的理解。那接下来就是由交通委员会的代表来做这个说明。
Thank you, Irene, and you will be doing some translating for us tonight, and I thank you so much for that.
对，今天我会做中文跟英文的翻译，所以你们后来在提问的部分的时候，你们用你们自己适合的语言发言都可以，我可以帮你们翻译。
At this time, I'm pleased to introduce, before we get started, Assembly Member Peter Abate, who is here this evening and wants to say a few words.
接下来是我们州众议员白彼得来发言。
I'm going to be very brief because I intend to interrupt while they're speaking most of the time tonight. Again, I'm pleased to be here. Finally, we got the Department of Transportation to come and talk to first of all, the Transportation Committee and then the entire board. And I want to thank Josephine and one of the board members, Steve Harrison, for really helping us get this meeting. We had to go to court. We had to go to court and win a court case on an Article 78 because they tried to just go around the community. They did not want to listen to us and all. And we got this done July 9th. And tonight, I just asked a few of them, have they made any changes since most of us spoke to them almost 2 months ago? And still no changes have been made. I mean, the arrogance is unbelievable. I mean, what's going on here? I mean, they just don't seem to care. And it's not as if we don't want to work with them. We're willing to work with them. We just think 8th Avenue is the wrong spot, what they're trying to do there. It's going to cause lives. It's actually going to cause people's lives. They think that they're going to help bicyclists and all and children. I think it's going to kill people. And that's why one of the pieces of legislation I have in is similar to what they're doing with the police, is to hold each and every one of the people making a decision to be held responsible in the future if something should happen to someone in this neighborhood. It's unfair what you're doing. I'll let you make the presentation, but we want to sit down and have a dialogue and not sit there for July, August, and now middle of September. You just told me you made no changes, no talking about anything. I don't know what went on all summer. I mean, not everyone was on vacation. At least look at the plan. And hopefully you could explain the B70 bus going on there, because I don't see how, and I spoke to the people from the MTA, he doesn't seem to know where the bus is going to go anyway. You know, and it's very scary. I think you're in violation of the Americans with Disability Act. If you move the bus to 7th Avenue, you have a neighbor who lives across the street here. That person will now have to cross 8th Avenue, cross the highway to get on the other side of the highway to get a bus. That has to be, and I know is a violation, when the bus is here and you're making that change. Fire department, you've told us, signed on. They have not signed on because I think it's going to add a lot of time for response time for EMS and the fire department. You have an EMS station on 7th Avenue and 50th Street will now have to be diverted since they can no longer make calls on 7th Avenue. So please make the presentation to them. We can do that. And then I think the final part of arrogance is we have a large Chinese community here. You'd think you would have an interpreter. Someone. Thank God Irene from my staff is here to do that. You should have the decency to bring someone, you know, to translate for the community. I mean, that's the epitome of arrogance, to go above it, to do something like that. So please make your presentation, and I hope the board members who are here feel free if I have some questions to ask. I've been trying to do this since last May. So again, thank you.
Thank you so much. I just want to recognize Wei Yi Chan from Councilman Justin Brennan's office, who's here tonight as well. Thank you so much for being here. So we have lots to do tonight for one, extremely important topic. Afterwards, the committee members will have a chance to ask questions, and then we'll open up the House for additional questions. At this point, I turn it over to the DOT. Thank you, Leroy.
Again, you guys can hear me? Yes. Again, my name is Leroy Branch. I'm here representing Keith Bray, the Borough Commissioner. I want to thank CB10, Josephine, for allowing us to be here to present this most important safety project. I want to welcome Anthony, and I look forward to working with you in the future on many, many different projects that will happen in CB10. We're here today to present this safety project. We would ask that everybody wait until the presentation is over, and then we will definitely have ample time to ask your questions. We're not leaving until Josephine kicks us out. So we will be here to answer your questions. So please, if you can allow the presentation to take place, and then after the presentation, we will have a question and answer period. I have two individuals here with me, our planners, and Anne-Marie, and also Ben, and they will introduce themselves as they stand up. And as was stated before, we have Andy Inglesby here from the MTA. So right now, I'd just like to introduce Anne-Marie.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Anne-Marie Daugherty. I'm Senior Director of Research, Implementation, and Safety at New York City Department of Transportation. I've spent most of my career working on safety, for keeping New York City residents safe, and most recently on the very successful Vision Zero program initiative. So we're here tonight to present this project. We want to listen to what you have to say. You know, we're presenting the project as it's been presented before. We had to come back to the community boards. This is our opportunity to present to each of the 3 community boards involved. So we're presenting tonight. We'll listen to your feedback. You know, we're hoping to move forward this year, but that's dependent on what we hear back from the community. So you will have an opportunity to share your feedback with us. Thank you. And here's Ben. Ben will be presenting the project today.
I'm going to translate, but also I just remind, someone just told me people in the back are not here, so when you talk through the speaker, the microphone, just hold it a little closer. Right, okay. And I try to leave more time for people can raise a question instead of translate the same proposal over and over again. So let me 我在这边很简单的先跟大家解释一下，刚刚我们白彼得议员在这边讲的就是我们这几个月来跟交通局不断的沟通跟开会，跟从7月我们告赢 了到现在，总共已经9月，都9月中了，它的这个计划还是一样都没有改变。那整线这个交通局在社区跟就没有诚意跟我们社区合作。那当然，我们议员也提出了很多关于这个他们的计划里面有很多违法的地方，包括违反美国残障法，那也包括他们这是我们华人Brooklyn 是我们华人最大的华人社区，结果交通局来做这个说明会的时候，竟然没有准备中文翻译，所以就是我们议员直接就是跟他们说，这是他们绝对的傲慢，他们不应该这个样子对待我们的社区。那接下来我会很简短的解释这个他们这个计划，他们只有带英。因为我要留多一点时间让大家提问。
Thank you, Irene. Good evening, everybody. My name is Ben Swade. I'm a Senior Project Manager at New York City Department of Transportation, Research, Implementation, and Safety Team. And I'm the lead project manager for the 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue Safety Project. I'm going to be walking you through our proposal tonight. As has been said, this is the proposal that was given previously. We are coming to give the community board 10 tonight and then 7 and 12 later in this month the opportunity to see our original proposal and provide feedback on our proposal through the community board forum. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the presentation.
他就是解释他现在要开始做他的 presentation， 他开始解释他的说明。他就只是强调他这个人是交通局专门负责这个计划的主要的负责人。
So, the project proposal that we are talking about tonight is 7th and 8th Avenue between 39th Street and 66th Street. This stretch is the heart of Chinatown in Sunset Park. And in terms of the existing transportation infrastructure, the B70 bus runs on 8th Avenue in both directions, and there is an existing two-way shared bike lane on 7th Avenue, which is just our markings on the ground.
他这边解释，从图上你可以看到整体的计划就是从7大道、8大道、66街到39街。那他解释现在8大道的情况是双向，然后7大道也是双向，再包括有双向的单车道是没有隔开的，现在是在7大道上面。
The reason we are here tonight is because of safety. 8th Avenue is a Vision Zero priority corridor. 8th Avenue is one of the most dangerous streets in all of Brooklyn for pedestrians. It has some of the highest rates of pedestrians killed or severely injured anywhere in Brooklyn. It is in the top 10% of dangerous streets. 7th Avenue has a comparable crash and injury data to 8th Avenue, though not quite a priority corridor. These streets are also located within the Borough Park Senior Pedestrian Focus Area and a Vision Zero priority area, meaning that senior pedestrians are disproportionately injured, as well as pedestrians generally injured in the greater Sunset Park priority area. 8th Avenue is also a bike priority district. It is on the border of that due to the high rates of cyclist injuries and the low rates of cycling and the low frequency of cycling infrastructure. However you break it down, these streets are incredibly dangerous under their current settings, and that is why we're here to make proposed changes. The project area spans 3 community boards, 7, 10, and 12, and there's a history of looking at one-way conversions, dating back to requests that we study the streets for one-way conversions from Community Board 7 all the way back in 2003.
他说基本上根据他们的数据显示，8大道是行人很多意外的地方，特别是发生意外的受害者常常往往都是老人家、年长者。然后他们调查过以后发现，很多是骑单车，那造成意外了以后，那8大道基本上是没有单车的设计，所以他们才接下来你就会看到他们就会在那个你要等到这里结束以后才可以。然后他就是说，从 2003年开始，其实他们就在针对这个八大道的改道就有开始进行研究。And someone want to raise a question? I already told him you have to wait.
I just want to confirm. I understand what you mean, but 告诉他这种解释我们已经听了6次了，不需要重新再做了。
They already heard this 6 times. They really wanted something different. So.
Waste of time. Waste of time.
Hold on a second. We have been mandated that we have to come and present to the Transportation Committee of CB10. We have to present to them the same presentation that we made prior. This is their time to listen and to make changes, to ask us about all the opinions that they may have on this project. As we go to all the community boards, we have to do the same thing.
Leroy, you didn't have to do the same thing. You could have come here with a different plan. You didn't have to. Well, the law didn't say you had to come with the original plan.
Let me say this. Hold on a second, Assembly member. We have to make the presentation. We're making this presentation tonight. So we have to hold off on all your questions till after. We're not gonna argue over which presentation we're making tonight. We're making this presentation.
So right now, they have to, I'm sorry, they have to make the presentation. They're here for the traffic and transportation. We have to, this is...
We all understand that plan, okay?
所以现在基本上就是因为当初我们有告他们，所以他们现在是拿程序上面，他必须要对社区委员会的交通委员做解释。
If we could potentially do this without translation, go through it for the
如果大家可以的话，因为你们都听过，我就不帮他们解释，不帮他们翻译，他们就赶快讲一讲就好了。可以吗？可以吗？有没有人需要我翻译？不用。All right, they already heard it's the same thing, so they don't need translation for this part. I will translate the QA section.
That's fine.
So
okay,
you can go through this.
So then we will do this for the committee without translation, and then after the presentation is over, we will open it up to committee members first for questions and comments, and then we will open it to the public forum. But please, I ask if you just stay seated and just listen with us, and together we can move forward and get this done as fast as we can.
They're afraid they don't have enough time to raise a question.
We are going to get through this as fast as we can.
I know, so, right.
All right, thank you. So we'll go forward without translation for the presentation for now. So when we started looking at 7th and 8th Avenue, we see that these streets are really the commercial heart of Chinatown in Sunset Park. We see that there's a lot of double parking, there's frequent loading, and lots of trucks blocking the travel lane, frequently rendering the 2 directions of travel to be just 1 lane for both directions. It leads to vehicles moving unpredictably. It leads to lots of congestion on the streets. It leads to slow bus speeds. The B70 averages less than 4 miles per hour on 8th Avenue in the peak times, barely faster than a walking pace. We see that for pedestrians, it's an extremely busy pedestrian corridor. We see thousands of pedestrians at all the intersections at all hours. And there are narrow sidewalks with street vendors, with businesses spilling out into the sidewalks, resulting in pedestrians spilling over into the street, crossing wherever, and a very congested, unpleasant walking experiences. We see there are hundreds of cyclists on these corridors currently. It's a north-south connection. We see commuter and recreational cyclists, as well as lots of commercial cyclists, especially on 8th Avenue. When we started to look at the crash types and how people were getting injured on these streets, we see that people in vehicles are getting injured due to the congestion and the narrow streets. We see that side swipes and head-on collisions between vehicles are 50% more frequent on these corridors than they are in the rest of Brooklyn. And it makes sense when you look at this top image. You can see that a vehicle and a bus are simultaneously using the 1 travel lane to try to get past double-parked trucks. These are the conditions that lead to congestion and a lack of safety for people in vehicles. When we look at how pedestrians are getting injured, we see that it's again due to the congestion, creating unpredictability and a lack of compliance. At points when there's conflict points between vehicles and pedestrians, we see that there's a lack of predictability. Vehicles come on the wrong side of the street, they're making turns in directions that are unpredictable, and where you have a lack of predictability, you have a lack of safety for these pedestrians. When we look at how cyclists are getting injured, we see that it's due to the lack of dedicated safe space for them. We see a high rate of failure to yield right turns, especially, which occurs because the cyclists are attempting to squeeze between moving vehicles and parked cars. And we see a lot of mid-block cycling injuries as well, as cyclists have to navigate around the same double parking conditions that vehicles do. So, as I mentioned, these corridors are incredibly dangerous in their current situations for pedestrians and cyclists. Pedestrian and cyclist injuries are more than half of the total injuries and more than half of the severe injuries on these corridors. There are more than 250 pedestrians and cyclists injured and 20 pedestrians and cyclists killed or severely injured in the 5-year study period that we have. Traffic injuries on these streets are also disproportionately, compared to Brooklyn, happening to both seniors and children. Seniors and children are our most vulnerable road users. If they're safe, if we can design a street that is safe for our seniors and for our children, the streets are safe for everybody. And again, I just want to contextualize the danger that exists in 8th Avenue in its current conditions. 8th Avenue, of all of the north-south streets in CB7, 10, and 12, between 39th and 66th Street, is tied with 3rd Avenue under the Gowanus for the highest number of pedestrians killed or severely injured of any of the north-south streets. That is the reason that we are here proposing safety changes, is to make sure that these streets are safer for the residents, for the visitors, and for everybody. Going back even before the COVID-19 pandemic came, DOT has been talking to the community. In February 2020, DOT's Street Ambassador team administered almost 400 surveys in the neighborhood about safety and mobility in Sunset Park. These surveys were done through partnerships with the Brooklyn Chinese American Association, the Chinese American Planning Council, and the Sunset Park Rec Center. The most frequently expressed concerns that we heard were vehicles are speeding, vehicles are not yielding to pedestrians, vehicles are parking illegally, and the heavy vehicle traffic on these streets. About 80% of people, when we asked about pedestrian conditions, said that the sidewalks are always too crowded on 7th and 8th Avenue. When we asked about concerns with cyclists, the most frequently expressed concern was that cyclists were riding on the sidewalk, something that happens when the streets do not feel safe for riding on. Of the nearly 400 people that we talked to, 88% of them arrived to the neighborhood either on foot or on public transportation. Just less than half of pedestrians and just more than half of cyclists who we said that they feel unsafe walking or biking on 7th and 8th Avenue. And for neighborhood commercial streets, not big wide streets, but for these neighborhood streets that are important, half of people feeling unsafe when they're using them is unacceptable. When we asked about proposed changes to the streets, half of respondents, one of the most common things that we heard was people wanted transit improvements, and particularly they wanted the B70 bus to work better. Our Street Ambassador teams also surveyed businesses. They talked to about 340 businesses along 7th and 8th Avenue to survey them about their deliveries, when they get deliveries, where vehicles park, where and when double parking occurs, and other issues that they have with loading. We found that the most commonly reported thing from these businesses were that they had trouble receiving their deliveries, most frequently due to the lack of dedicated curb space for vehicles to park at. With that context, we started looking at what we could do to improve safety on these streets. And we find that in their current conditions, we're extremely limited with our possible safety improvements. Both 7th and 8th Avenue are 44 feet wide, two-way streets with parking on both sides of the streets. As two-way streets, they have really limited corridor safety improvement possibilities. We can do things like put in parking lane stripes or small changes to signal timing that typically try to narrow the moving lanes to address speeding, which is not the underlying cause of the injuries, and more importantly, is not a sufficient solution to the crash and injury problems that we see on these streets. These streets are also very complicated. There's a lot going on, and we have to consider all of these factors and more as we make these plans. There's a lot of loading activity, particularly on all these streets, but particularly concentrated in the 50s on 8th Avenue, but throughout all of these corridors. There are buses, the B70 bus, as well as charter buses that run on 8th Avenue, and the stops are spaced every 400 to 700 feet currently, which is below the MTA's average spacing guidelines for bus stops. It can be very challenging to park on these corridors. They're dense commercial and residential streets, and parking is a challenge for residents, for visitors. Even though, from the recent census data, 2/3 of households in the census tracts that this project is in do not own cars. There are also extremely high pedestrian volumes. We counted at one intersection in 1 hour more than 5,000 pedestrians. Those are numbers that we see in Midtown Manhattan, not in residential and commercial districts in Brooklyn, and there's not nearly enough space for the thousands of pedestrians. There are hundreds of daily cyclists. We counted 600 to 800 cyclists per day in late 2019, and we've seen citywide that cycling numbers have increased dramatically throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. There are also commuter vans along 8th Avenue and other factors that go into our plan. So with that, the proposal for these streets is to convert them into one-way streets, to make 7th Avenue a southbound street from 39th Street to 65th Street, and 8th Avenue a northbound street between 65th Street and 39th Street. With these conversions, we would add a protected bike lane to each one of those streets, as well as adding additional pedestrian space for the thousands of daily pedestrians, and an aggressive curbside management plan to improve the parking situation. We'll also be proposing a contraflow bike lane on 66th Street between 7th and 8th Avenue to connect northbound cyclists. So why do we see one-way conversions as a solution to the problems that are currently on 7th and 8th Avenue? We see one-way conversions as a substantial corridor safety improvement that directly address the crash history of these streets. When we eliminate two-way traffic from 7th and 8th Avenue, we improve vehicle predictability, reduce movements at all intersections, and crucially reduce conflicts between vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. If a vehicle double parks, to go around it, you no longer have to go into oncoming traffic. If you're approaching an intersection or you're looking to cross the street, vehicles will only be coming from one direction. And when you have a more predictable street and you have fewer conflicts, you have a safer street. The one-way conversions also allow for the addition of safe, dedicated space for cyclists and expanded space for pedestrians that allow us to both provide real safety and mobility improvements for those road users, as well as helping to narrow the street to reduce speeding in the off-peak hours so that vehicles are not driving too fast in the north in the north portion where it's less busy, or overnight. We also can put in signal progressions with one-way conversions, timing the signals so that you hit green lights at 25 miles per hour to help move vehicles more efficiently, but keeping them at a safe travel speed. With the one-way conversions, there are multiple proposals about how we would adjust the curb side of the street adjacent to the sidewalk. One of the main parts of this plan is providing more pedestrian space for the thousands of pedestrians by providing a sidewalk extension on the west curb of 8th Avenue from 60th Street to 51st Street. We also are looking to add commercial loading zones at key locations during peak delivery times, dedicating space for trucks to make deliveries to the businesses. We'll get more into that, but in order to make those proposals, we completed a comprehensive curbside study. We did the business surveys that I mentioned earlier. We used time-lapse video, and we had stakeholder conversations with various business owners along 8th Avenue. 7th and 8th Avenue, sorry. With transit, the proposal relocates the southbound B70 bus from 8th Avenue to 7th Avenue, as well as consolidates bus stops so that it runs more efficiently. And additionally, on the curbside, there's the proposal to add the parking protected bike lanes. When we talk about protected bike lanes, people often see them as just an improvement for cyclists. However, one of the things that's very important to note with protected bike lanes is that they improve safety for everybody on the street. Where we've installed protected bike lanes and have sufficient after data, we see a 15% drop in all crashes with injuries and an even larger decrease in pedestrian injuries. This happens because protected bike lanes help to organize the roadway. They give cyclists a safe place to sit or to ride so that vehicles know where to expect them and where those conflict points occur. And for pedestrians, they shorten crossing distances, giving pedestrians less exposure to turning vehicles, and shorter crossing distances when going across the streets. So though they are also mobility improvements for cyclists, they are safety improvements for everybody. The protected bike lanes on 7th and 8th Avenue also connect very well to the existing bike network in this portion of Brooklyn. On the southern end in CB10, near where we are tonight, they connect directly to the 7th Avenue South protected bike lane that was implemented in 2019, as well as to paths through Leif Erikson Park. They provide an important connection through the Sunset Park neighborhood, and then connect on the north side to bike lanes that bring cyclists directly to Prospect Park and other connecting points further north in Brooklyn. So this proposal, what will it actually look like when we implement these changes on the streets? There are three primary cross sections that you can see on this slide. The top one is our primary design, what most of 7th and 8th Avenue will look like. Moving from left to right on this image, you can see that we start off with our curbside parking protected bike lane. Next to that is your parking lane, which we call a floating parking lane when it's not directly on the curb, your one travel lane, and then your curbside parking lane. Note that these parking lanes are all wider than our standard. There are wide parking lanes that make sure that there's room to get around double parked vehicles. In the middle, you can see our two-lane design. This is in the southern portion and would be the design within CB10's portion of these corridors. Between 65th Street and 60th Street, where we have heavier vehicle volumes, we narrowed down the design so that we can fit two travel lanes in this portion. But the design essentially remains the same. You have your protected bike lane, your floating parking lane, your two travel lanes, and your parking. It's just everything's a little bit narrower here so that we can fit in the two travel lanes for the heavier vehicle volumes. On the bottom is our pedestrian design proposed for 8th Avenue between 60th Street and 51st Street, which has our, from left to right again, your painted sidewalk extension, your protected bike lane, a buffer space with a physical barrier, and as well as room for maneuvering, a travel lane, and then parking lane. To give another sense of what this will look like, this is an overhead view of a typical portion of the proposal. This is showing a sample from 7th Avenue, but is what most of the streets will look like. On the bottom of this image in bright green, you see the protected bike lane. And then again, generally moving left to right across here, you see design features that we'll be proposing. So we have protected intersections where possible to ensure that vehicles turning across the bike lane are making these turns safely, as well as reducing crossing distances for pedestrians. We have channelization around fire hydrants as well as at all intersections as necessary to ensure that turns onto and off of the streets and emergency access is not precluded. We have pedestrian refuge islands wherever possible on this design to reduce pedestrian crossing distances of 7th and 8th Avenue by half, so that people crossing the street only have to cross 22 feet instead of 44 feet, reducing their time that they're exposed to turning vehicles. We have other features such as right turn bays that and left turn mixing zones that we're putting in as necessary, where we have higher turn volumes in order to accommodate and process the vehicles making turns without backing up the one lane of travel. We know that the B70 bus is a very important part of this proposal, and it's one of the things that was most asked for improvements when we talked to the community. Our plan has been working really closely with the MTA in order to improve service for the B70 bus on both 7th and 8th Avenue. As this proposal shows, the southbound B70 bus will be rerouted to 7th Avenue, and in both directions we'll be implementing improved stop spacing to help speed up service along the corridors. So instead of the bus stopping every 2 to 3 streets, it'll stop closer to every 5 streets. It'll therefore spend less time pulling into and out of stops. It'll spend less time loading and unloading of passengers. And in addition to the changes of the street, will provide much more efficient service to the people riding the bus in Sunset Park. On this map here, you can see all of the proposed stops, all of the new stops, and all of the removed stops. The removed stops are shown in red. The maintained northbound stops are in blue, and the new stops for the southbound bus are shown in green. One thing to note is that it was with the 8th Avenue, the busiest stop on the B70 route is the 62nd Street station, where it connects to the 8th Avenue N train. We're proposing to put in a traffic signal at 7th Avenue and 62nd Street in order to ensure that people riding the bus southbound can connect easily between the bus and the N train at the 8th Avenue station. In the southern portion of this project, specifically within CB10, there's some additional details to mention on 65th Street, 66th Street, and 67th Street that are all part of the proposal. On 65th Street, we're proposing to add an eastbound to northbound left turn bay at 8th Avenue in order to accommodate the higher turn volumes that are predicted at that location. On 66th Street, we're going to be adding a protected contraflow bike lane traveling eastbound from 7th Avenue to 8th Avenue to connect northbound cyclists, and I'll show that on the next slide. And then on 67th Street, we're proposing adding angled parking on the north side adjacent to Leif Erikson Park between 7th Avenue and 9th Avenue. Just to further explain the 66th Street proposed design, this is to connect northbound cyclists from the existing bike lanes at 7th Avenue and 66th Street to the new bike lanes that will be going northbound on 8th Avenue using 66th Street. This design will take what is currently angled parking adjacent to the park on the south side of 66th Street and replace it with parallel parking. It will then on the curb, as you can see in the bottom image here, have one block of an eastbound bike lane protected with the parking, and as 66th Street continues to travel westbound for this block between 7th and 8th Avenue. One of the other things that we know is a big challenge on these corridors is parking. And so we want to explain the kind of how protected bike lanes and parking interface often. In order to increase the visibility of cyclists, reduce conflicts, and ensure that bike lanes operate safely and efficiently, near intersections with protected bike lanes, parking is often repurposed in order to ensure safety. Where there are left turns across the bike lane, as you can see in these two images in the left and the center, parking is repurposed approaching the intersection to ensure that drivers making left turns have unobstructed views of the bike lane before they make their turns across it. So you can see in the leftmost image, we have our protected left turn design, where the driver has a clear view that where cyclists are. And in the mixing zone design, you have channelization to ensure the same thing, that drivers turning across the bike lane have a clear view before going across. At the same time, we'll have curbside right turn lanes at certain locations that replace parking with right turn bays to make sure that we can process the right turning vehicles efficiently without blocking the one travel lane. As part of this proposal, we're also looking to install loading zones along the corridors. Loading zones will dedicate curb spaces to trucks and vans making deliveries for certain hours of the day to ensure that they have a place to park so they can access the curb, make their deliveries without blocking the travel lane. During all other hours, these remain passenger vehicle parking for customers and residents. These loading zones that we're proposing, these determinations were made through a combination of the surveys that our street ambassador team did with businesses, stakeholder conversations, and the time-lapse videos that we reviewed. Along these corridors, we're proposing to install a mixture of both metered and unmetered loading zones. So this map shows the main proposed changes to the parking that are being proposed as part of this project. And just as I go through this, just note that the main goals of this parking plan are really to reduce truck double parking, provide dedicated loading space, and to be increasing vehicle turnover so people aren't staying at these busy locations all in one parking spot all day in front of the businesses. With this plan, we're providing approximately 95 new metered parking spots along the commercial corridors to improve passenger vehicle access. Those are shown in blue on the map here. So you can see some on 7th Avenue, along some side streets of 8th Avenue, as well as further south on 8th Avenue between 62nd and 3rd Street. We're also providing new commercial loading zones, which you can see in yellow. The ones that are not marked are operating from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. The ones that are marked have specific hours due to unique conditions that were identified in our time-lapse and business surveys. The other portion I want to draw your attention to is the portion in purple and green, which is where our pedestrian sidewalk is proposed. What you can see in purple is is the sidewalk expansion, providing that space for pedestrians. And then in green is where we're proposing to update the meters from 2 hours to 1 hour with metered loading zones. The hours that you can see on this map are the hours that the loading zones are proposed to be in operation. So in the southern part, it will be they're proposed from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And as you get further north along the sidewalk expansion, the hours reduce to 7 to 4 and 7 to 1, and they and from 7 to 1. This design, in total, the net change is a repurposing of approximately 185 parking spots across more than 3 miles of streets. More than 90% of total parking spots on all of the streets between 39th Street and 67th Street and between 7th and 8th Avenue will remain available if this plan is implemented. You can see in the table below the breakdown of how the number is determined, the elements for the protected bike lane, the sidewalk extension itself, where we're putting in right turn lanes, and then gains that we get back from the bus stop changes and consolidations, as well as the proposed changes on 65th Street, 66th Street, and 67th Street, resulting in that net loss of approximately 183 parking spots across more than 3 miles of total streets. So to summarize this proposal, and before we open up the floor to the community board members and then the public for Q&A, we believe that this one-way conversion and this project directly addresses the crash history of a Vision Zero priority corridor and a Vision Zero priority area through the street conversion and the design that directly responds to the crash history of what are some of the more dangerous streets in Brooklyn. It provides much-needed pedestrian space, as well as improving pedestrian safety and mobility in the heart of Chinatown for the overwhelming majority of street users who are pedestrians. It provides a safe, direct connection for cyclists in Sunset Park. It improves the reliability and the speed of the B70 bus. The project planning was done in consultation with numerous surveys and conversations with stakeholders throughout the community. And this project aligns with citywide goals such as the Green Wave and the master transportation plans of expanding the protected bike lane network throughout New York City, providing additional pedestrian space throughout New York City. So with that, thank you all for your respectful attention, and I'm going to turn it over, to Anthony to...
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate, we all appreciate that presentation. At this time, so we're going to open up for questions and comments from the board members right now only. So any board members that are in the room, or I know some are communicating via live stream, if you have any questions or comments, just put your hand up and you can come up and
接下来呢，他们现在做完这个说明以后，先让它有程序，先让这个 社区委员会的委员先做提问，然后就会开放到接下来我们民众的提问。
Thank you so much. So some of the reasons that you have mentioned tonight that you had wanted to do the one-way conversion, that this is the heart of Chinatown, that this is a pedestrian corridor, that this has a lot of cyclist activity. These are exactly the reasons that the committee here has been so concerned about the changes that you have proposed, for those exact same reasons. And we are grateful that we have the opportunity to have so many people from our community who have come out tonight to help share their voice and share their opinion. Because we know while something may look good on paper sometimes, we have to go to the people who live here and to work here to find out what it is actually like in this. So we are thankful for this opportunity to get together, and we are anxious to hear from our community as well. May I continue, or do you want to translate that?
I remember.
We also want to remind you that we do have a little microcosm, a little sample of how one-way conversions work in this neighborhood. Because while I am very pleased to be a member of Community Board 10 and a volunteer here, and I've been head of traffic and transportation for many years, I'm also the principal of PS 69. Our school is on 9th Avenue by 63rd Street. And we also had many problems with the traffic in front of our school. And we're very worried about the safety for our students. And the proposed alternative was the one-way conversion for those 2 blocks from 62nd to 64th Street. And I have to tell you, that is violated every single day. And I fear for the other blocks where there would be a one-way conversion, that it too may wind up being a place not that has solved a problem, but that has created another problem. So thank you.
交通委员，他同时也是69小学的校长，所以他在这首先他先谢谢我们的社区真的很勇敢的站出来，因为他说也许有些计划在文字上面对这些坐在办公室的人来讲，在电脑上面看得很漂亮，可是你真的要实际去问住在这里的人，在这里生活的人，在这里做生意的人，到底什么计划能不能适合我们当地的居民？他就举例在69小学，在9大道62街到64街，他之前就有一样改成单向这个计划，一样交通局计划的很漂亮，结果他是校长嘛，所以他每天就看着他是一个单向的，可是每天总有一些车子，他就是会在那边逆向。那对孩子是，他每天都看到孩子这么危险，那他今天很担心的是，如果这么大的区块改了以后，那对我们的社区到底影响有多严重？所以他今天非常感谢大家出来。
Yes, I'm Joe Sokolsky. I'm on the committee, Transportation Committee. I'm also on Senior Issues Committee. And one thing that strikes me is 5 blocks for a bus stop where you have so many seniors in the area. They have to go 5 blocks now to speed up the bus. That's not fair. Not fair to the people. And take your time, Irene. 委员会的成员，所以他针对这个我们巴士要改成5条街，现在是2条街或3条街就停一次，在他的计划上面是5条街停一次，有一个还更远，会是7条街。他说在这个年长者上面要求老人家去走5条街是非常不公平的。Also, I may have missed it. What about the junction where the N train is? There was mention of that. I mean, how are people supposed to merge from the buses to the junction now with the N train?
So that was just where.
他针对他问交通局的人说，那坐巴士的人在他计划改了以后，怎么跟 N 车做接驳 ？You can continue.
So we're at 7th Avenue and 62nd Street for the southbound bus. We're proposing to add a new traffic signal at that intersection so that people getting on and off the bus will have a safe crossing to get directly to the train station there.
接驳
我的问题，他直接讲到是7大道的 N 车的地方，他说他们有考虑过，所以会加一个交通灯，所以在那里下巴士的人就可以比较安全的过马路去坐地铁。
Now, what about the elevator for the 8th Avenue line? Is there any elevator in plan?
接下来问的是坐地铁的时候，如果行动不便的人怎么做？就是电梯的部分。这位是 MTA 的代表。
Yeah, hi, I'm sorry.
Don't worry.
Is this working? Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Andy Inglesby. I'm with MTA New York City Transit, Government Community Relations. So currently, the Manhattan-bound direction is ADA accessible. We are planning on making the Coney Island-bound direction accessible as well. That's in the next capital plan, and it's currently funded. We'll have more information regarding that in the coming year or so.
8th Avenue or 7th Avenue?
We'll be informing you guys in the plan when we come to you to talk about the 8th Avenue ADA plan. We'll come and talk to you about that.
MTA 这个代表他就是解释，现在8大道的地铁，我们的坐电梯的你就知道，只有北向往曼哈顿的方向可以从8大道下地铁。他说南向的有在预算里面，还在计划中，目前没需要消息。
Just to reiterate, that is in the 2020 to 24 capital plan, and it is funded, and we'll be coming to discuss the details with that in the coming months.
他说接下来就是这笔预算在2022跟2024的预算里面已经规划了，所以但南向还没有，所以是针对这个部分。
Just 2 more things. One thing is, I think I'm going to echo Jane. I think it's going to cause more confusion and more accidents than what's going to help. And I honestly think this is all about the bike lanes. That's all I heard, the green, the bike lanes. That's, I think, what's the primary thing. I don't think it's really to help the community. It's to make that connection on that bike lane. That's the way I feel. And I'm on the committee, and I'm opposed to it.
他说针对这个，他感觉就是他认为这个整个计划听完了以后，他只听到交通局想要盖单车道，根本会给社区造成更多意外、更多伤亡、更多问题，可是他们都没有诚意要解决。
Okay, I want to go through this quickly. I'm Josephine Beckman. I'm the District Manager of Community Board 10, but I'm here to answer questions for board members who are outside this room. On the committee, Steve Harrison, who is a cyclist. And he states the cyclists on 8th Avenue tend to be commercial cyclists, from his observation, serving the local merchants, not long-range cyclists. They need to go north and south to be efficient. This plan frustrates that, forcing them to go around the block just to go 1 block. Not right at all. Did you consider the nature of the cyclists?
这个提问的一样是社区委员会，因为我们今天同时有线上直播，所以他本人没有过来。他在线上提问的是，这位是我们区经理，所以他代表发言。他的提问就是8大道在他了解的8大道所谓的单车，基本上都是商家的外送员，所以他们需要南向也要北向。可是如果今天改成单向的话，那这些外送员就是需要这样子一边往上一边往下的绕来绕去。那他认为这个一样造成社区的问题，也造成安全的问题。那他问的是交通委员会交通局这边的意见。
Additionally, Irene, just one other point, 65th Street at 7th Avenue, many members of the committee said creating a deadhead at 65th Street and 7th Avenue horrifies many members of the committee that have spoken before. We've done extensive work to improve safety at that intersection, and now seeing the proposal with an added bus turn on 65th Street and 7th Avenue, with the exit on the highway, all converging there, adding congestion to that, the most dangerous intersection in Community Board 10, we have many concerns. We've tried to improve safety there, and creating a deadhead situation there is of great concern. Those were the 2 questions.
这个接下来的提问的问题就是，因为7大道，如果你在7大道上由南往北60几街的话，其实只能在它的计划里面的话，只能停到65街就没有了，因为65街往北基本上就是由南往北，由北往南向的，所以他们的担心，他们的顾虑是这样子，7大道上面一边往上一边往下，那在交通设计上面这2个是会对撞的，再包括65街一直有塞车。的问题，所以这个部分在社区委员会全体会员上面已经不断的讨论过很多次，那这是他们就是很强烈的反对的部分。
To respond to the first question about cyclists, our detailed cyclist counts and observations of all the cyclists that we observed in the area, but our plan seeks to make sure that it is safe for all cyclists, whether they're recreational or commercial. And thank you for the additional comments.
基本上他就是回答他们调查的过程中，针对单车族，他们是连如果是娱乐健身用的单车族或者是外送员都一起算。
Good evening. My name is Dean Rossinia. I'm a member of the committee. I'm a past chairman of the board. And while I appreciate the presentation we had tonight, my comment is this. Many of the safety concerns that were raised here and the answers to them can be implemented without going to one-way streets. One-way streets may work in some areas, they may not work in others. So there are many things we could do to improve safety that do not involve one-way streets. And as a comment to everybody, my own personal opinion is this is a political push from the mayor to push his programs before he gets out of office.
大家有听懂？基本上他就是说，他们反对改成单向，因为有些地区单向可以，有些地区单向真的不适合。他认为在这个社区改成单向，整个计划下来改成单向，对社区会造成很多其他的问题。那接下来他个人的意见，要跟大家分享，就是他认为这整个计划是白纸好的计划，他只是要在下台以前交一个漂亮的报告而已。
Okay, again. So I sat through one more thing on it. A number of things. I know when you say things, you try to make it sound for safety. And I know it's zero vision does not work all the time. You know, and the problem I face again, and I know I disagree with some people. I can live with one-way streets. I can live with a bike lane. But no one has explained why it has to be on 8th Avenue, the most dangerous spot of the thing. You say you have 7th Avenue. I think 7th Avenue can provide a two-way bike lane, which is safe. You don't need one on every street. If you make them one way, the streets, right? That means I can only drive one way on 8th and one way on 7th. I can't drive both ways. So you don't need the bikes on two. I think one would be sufficient there, and I think that's important to know. You can do that, and as I said earlier, it leads to the park. And you also said the bus stops, and you brought up it would be five blocks apart. It'd be 7 blocks apart, not 5. Because now if someone walks from 9th Avenue to 8th Avenue to catch the bus, right, that's 1 block. Now they got to walk the 5 blocks apart. They got to walk from 9th to 7th. And we talk about safety for seniors and people. Right now they have to cross one street. And you said it'll be narrower. 22 feet, I think you said, instead one street. Now that same senior or pedestrian will have to cross 5 intersections. I don't know how that becomes safer when you're crossing 5 streets instead of 1. So I think that has to be looked into. And speaking to the gentleman from transportation, he wasn't even aware. I asked him where the bus was going to go. I didn't even know, and I don't think he knew it was going to turn on 65th Street. I wasn't aware of that when I was explaining. I thought it was going to go on the service road, you know, along 7th Avenue to 75th Street and make the turn, not at 65th Street. And I know another thing on the angle parking on 67th Street. I think the board years ago fought against that the community was against it, and you didn't do it because the board, now you're going to do it anyway. The time went on. So I really think it's important that you sit down with a group of people, you know, to do it. You say you had, you spoke to the business owners on 8th Avenue. Most of them are here or outside. They're not for it. I don't know where you got the survey from. You mentioned a couple of community groups from Sunset Park. Most of them have protested against the plan. They're not for it. We're trying to find out who's for it. Also the bicycle groups. Brian, what? Yeah, Brian Head from the South Brooklyn Cyclists. They're not for the plan. You know, I left message on the phone. They're not for the plan. So I'm trying to figure out who's for it. Can you tell one question and can you answer that? Tell me who's for the plan. in the community? Can you tell me? Name.
Give us a list.
No, not a list. I just said a name or two. Can you tell me who's for it?
We're not going to name names. We're talking to lots of community
How many?
members.
You have groups for it? I don't want to name. There are like 3 groups, 2 groups, 500 residents. There is no one. There is no one. Just say it. Say it, it's your plan. Admit it. It's not wrong. It's our plan. We don't have much support. We're trying to build support. We're going to do it. But you have no support. You can't name a person. Don't say you don't want to give out names. There is no one. Am I correct? Am I correct? There's any group? Yes or no? It's a simple answer.
We have people who have we have people who have supported this plan. We have groups that have supported this plan.
Where are they? Where are they?
Probably not.
Where are they?
They're not here right now.
I haven't seen them in 6 months. I haven't seen them. In 6 months.
I appreciate these comments. I'm not going to be able to give a satisfactory answer to this, so thank you for your comments.
I'll make it very quick. 基本上我很简单的翻译，基本上我们议员就是针对单向、双向，我们都可以讨论。有的人可以接受单向，没有关系；有人可以接受双向，我们都可以讨论。重点是交通局要开放这个沟通的部分。那他说 ，That was long 。他说最主要的是在整个交通的过程，他都说是要安全，但是整个让我们看到的是，我们整个社区最担心的安全。那今天他也质疑，我们议员也质疑说，在他的计划里面，他有说他跟我们社区的商家沟通，商家都在这边。他说他有跟我们社区组织沟通，社区组织也跟我们一起提这个告诉，还告他们，就是我们都不懂，他们说他们的支持到底是从哪里来的。
Hello, my name is Carmen Feliciano. I live on 82nd Street between 5th and 6th Avenue. And one of the scariest things for me, I may not look it right now, but I am a senior and I am disabled, is crossing the streets when these motorbikes come out of nowhere at top speeds. And sometimes I'll see 1, 5, 10 at all hours of the day. So I just want to know, in your studies, throughout the city, if you have a one-way street, how do motorbikes then take advantage of this, like a new thoroughfare or roadway, just speeding along those streets also?
And also, how many motorized in your studies? Did you include motorized in your cyclist studies?
这边他提问的就是他自己本人住在5大道6大道大概86街附近，他因为有一点伤残，所以他走路比较不方便。那他很担心的是，现在在街上越来越多这个电单车，很多是速度很快的电单车，所以他在问说，他们在过去在研究这个安全计划的时候，有没有把电单车也列入记录？
Yep. Thank you for that question. So we include the any motorized vehicles included in the study that we have. The timed lights will help to address the speeding, but any vehicle, whether it's a bike, a motorized vehicle, a motorized e-scooter, things of that nature, are required to go the direction of travel.
And they are listed as a cyclist? They are listed as a cyclist in a category?
It depends on, there's a lot of classifications.
No, I'm translating. I
No.
need to know the term.
There are electric cyclists, there are ones that are considered bikes, there are other ones that are considered scooters, there are other ones that are considered motorcycles. But they're all of anything, every vehicle that's on the street is included in the study, yes.
Right. 基本上他就是讲说，他有把电单车列入记录。我问他说，列入车子的记录还是单车的记录？但基本上他没有办法跟我回答，就对了。
Thank you so much. That is going to conclude the committee Q&A. So at this time, we're going to open it up to public Q&A. You're going to raise your hand and then step up as I call on you. So I saw you first, so come on up.
接下来我们就是开放民众提问，所以要发言的举手这个委员会主席他就会来叫人。那一样尽量缩短限时2分钟，然后我们这样才可以提更多问题。
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Wang. and I'm on the behalf of the United Chinese Association of Brooklyn, over 1,000 members, to express our concern. We are outraged by the way we were treated. Before DOT made this decision, they never contact either our community leaders or community boards and ignored our present the entire time. It is such a shame that they did this to our community and the residents. And you just said you will contact the organizations for survey, but you never contact us before you make this proposal. This is the most important, that before you make a proposal and you hear us and you talk us, we live here, we work here, and we shop here. Not you. You sit in your desk and in front of your computer, and you don't know here. And we know what we need, not you. We are request, and this plan is for DOT. It's not for us. Because this is not benefit to us. But I don't know if the benefit to DOT, but it's for DOT. And we are requesting DOT to provide a better plan by including the neighborhoods, community boards, in all these decisions that the DOT has made, and make sure that the community has a say in the process. Until the new, and otherwise, if you cannot make any new plan, and DOT must hold this proposal until the new mayor and his administration team are in place to review this ridiculous plan. No multiplication. We are not invisible. We have been raising our voices to fight for our concerns about the conversion plan, and we are continue our work together with all of the elected officials until our voice are being heard. 我们会一起努力，让他 change the plan， 对不对 ？Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
需要翻译吗？不用哈，直接让他们回答。
Oh, okay. So let me speak, because there's more Chinese here. Let me speak in Chinese, and then you will translate. 我是非常赞同那个69校长刚才说的话。他说，这些 DOT 的人全部是坐在办公室里面，他们根本不知道我们社区需要什么东西。我的名字叫陆一路，我住在八大道差不多22年了。
His name is Louis Liu. He lives here on 8th Avenue over 22 years, and he's fully agree with Jen, also a principal from PS69, what she said.
这个就是刚才这个人已经介绍了这些东西，就是我手上这份报告，这是 DOT 做出来的。我随便在这里就这些的报告完全都是不符合现实的。我现在随便提出来一条。
And he said he read through all your slides in the Chinese translation, and he gonna point out just few, but there are actually a lot of things that doesn't make sense, and it's not based on reality and doesn't fit into the people's life here.
大家可以看在第5页
，Page 5。
他这里是说，由于街道狭窄拥挤，就会造成很多的车辆乘客受伤。 记住，由于街道拥挤造成受伤。OK。
So page 5 says because sidewalk is narrow, so it causes more casualty for accidents, which is wrong.
再看一下第17页，
And page
第17页，
page 17.
这里的计划是八大道有这个有单车线，有 parking 线，然后就一条开车线。
On the page 17, you can see the design is one travel lane with the parking and loading and the bike lane.
这一条单车线，这一条的开车线，傻瓜都知道会造成交通拥挤，那不就是跟第5页一样的，就会造成更多的行人受伤吗？所以。
And everyone knows if you say narrow street will cause more casualty, if you only have put one travel lane on 8th Avenue between 60 to 50, one travel lane, it's a narrow, that will cause more casualty based on your logic.
所以我根本不需要他们的解释，他们会解释冠冕堂皇，会解释很多话。
Excuse me, can I
No need. All right. 所以你解释给他。我不需要他们解释，他们的解释肯定会解释得很漂亮。
You already know what you're going to say. It doesn't matter.
他们这种无视社区的需求，只是像刚才黄女士说的，他们可能为他们自己的计划去做的一个 plan， 去给我们社区用。所以，鉴于他们之前几次的开会，从来没有改变过他们的计划。
He said he's been joining this meeting with this same proposal over and over again, and you never change the plan. That just shows you know you're not going to change anything. And he said you don't live here, you don't know how people live here, you don't know how people work here. Your proposal just not for them, it's for you guys.
所以我刚才的问题根本不需要他们回答。
That's why he doesn't need your explanation because it's for yourself.
只要他们继续他们的计划，我们的社区一定反对到底。
If you continue this proposal, they will against it. He said if you continue this proposal, they will continue against it.
Okay.
Thank you. Hello? Good evening, everybody. I just want to point out I'm a board member of Community Board 7 for 13 years, and I'm a resident for Sunset Park for over 30 years. I grew up here. This is my neighborhood. This is my family. But think about this. I know you guys are a city agency. I know this is your job. You know, this plan could be happens good or right. It doesn't matter for you guys. This is your job. But it could be happens 1 or 2 months, and then you guys do whatever every day you guys do it. But the tough thing is for our neighborhood, is for our children and our seniors to suffer if the plan is not right for our community. We have to deal with this for years and for decades. This is dangerous plan. So think about this tonight, you guys, Mr. Ray, Mr. Ben, Emery, Mr. Emery, thank you for your time. Tonight, before you kiss the kids to sleep, think about this. We are new immigrants. We are Chinese, we are minority. We come to this country, we're working very hard. We build up our community one step by one step. I believe you have your own community. But some plan, it doesn't work for your community. Not for your children and your senior, your family. It's not right for you guys. I believe you guys got to fight for it, correct? So I believe you guys will do that. But please, I'm backing you guys. For your decision, for what you did for our community, it's very, very important to change our entire community for years and for decades. But tonight, please, think about this. This is not just your job. It's something, you know, your time, your heart, you open your ear, and looking. Everybody is against it. So this plan is not working. Please get a better plan for our community. Thank you.
Hello, 冷静一下哈，等一下，开会要有秩序。你来。
Hello， 我係 Helen。
Helen， 那個麥拿近一點。
Hello， 我係 Helen。我係呢個社區嘅一份子啦。咁啊，聽到交通局話喺度修建自行車嘅路，咁我堅決反對，因為咧呢個計劃係好唔實際嘅。本身咧八大道係非常之繁忙，係咪？咁咧對呢件事咧，佢話要加建呢個單車路咧，係對商家同埋我哋嗰啲民眾啊係毫無意義嘅。你哋話係咪啊？係嘛？咁樣咧，我哋一定要努力爭取我哋嘅權益，一定要表達我哋嘅需要乜嘢，唔好話佢哋俾咩我哋就要接受，啱唔啱啊？咁係啊，我講嘅嘢就係咁多啦，簡簡單單啦，唔好浪費大家時間啦，大家都好肚餓啦，係咪？係咁啦。
So she's saying she lives here, this is her community, and your plan is just not practical for people who live here. So you need to think about from senior, from the family, from the younger children, and from the business, from the whole community. Your plan is not work, it doesn't work for the community. And, she's gonna against it, and she believes the whole community gonna against it.
Anyone else? I saw your hand in the back. Come on.
Hi, my name is Zhu Lin. I've been living here for more than 20 years, and I was a candidate for city council in this district. I got more than 3,700 votes, so I can say I know this community fairly well. Ben, in this presentation, I would say that you did very good at sugarcoating the fact that you're leaving one drive lane on each side. Isn't that correct? One drive lane. That's insane. For this big community.
I think it's travel lane, right? You mean travel lane?
Yes, for driving lane. You're leaving one driving lane for each side. And that is a big concern because driving lanes are like the veins and arteries of the body as to the community. When you take it away from the body, you're going to kill the body. When you take it away from the community, you're going to kill the community. We need those driving lanes. Can you translate that, Irene?
You speak English.
Okay.
I don't need to translate. You guys understand, right? So basically it's about the one travel lane, so, okay.
OK， 我刚刚跟我们的这个DOT 的朋友讲，我说他这个 presentation 实际上是在这个做糖衣炮话，做一个糖衣。他把一个事实说得很好听，但实际上它里面是什么呢？他把整个社区只留给我们一个车道。这么大的社区，它只留给一个车道。车道对于社区来讲，就像我们人体的血管一样，你把血管拿走了，是不是会把一个人给杀死？你把社区的车道拿走了，你会把整个社区给杀死的，这是一个事实。So it's not gonna work, And again, a lot of things we can still negotiate on it, all right? But one drive lane is definitely not. We will not tolerate that. We will not. Thank you.
Uh, 各位大家好啊！我们作为我也本人也是在这边生意做前后13年、14年时间。对 DOT 这一次我们4月份有听到在这改道的问题，我们已经虽然是说在网络上见面几次，刚才瑞露说6次时间来都没有改变过，完全都是他所编的这故事，一路上都没有改变。现在我有2个问题要问他一下。第一，把大道向下面的数字小的走，其他道放向这边走。 两个大道，它分开来方向不同，但是他们有没有感觉到，从每个街头，它转弯的现象，现在目前人口增加多少，车位需求多大？他现在把所有的车位减到183个，现在一个 DOT 政府这么多钱，发展的应该是在我们这个目前的车位上面，改道方向，它以那个单车一个整个捅出来，这是不现实的，因为刚才哪位讲那话，他都是在我们议员讲的，他是在办公室做功课的，不是在现场的需要。我们在这边做生意做的是，我也在这里，虽然是时间不长，13年时间来，我们见到现在目前的状况 ，DOT 叫胡扯。他要向真正知道我们社区需求，不是他在办公上面向百事豪交代，他是利益关系。现在领下去，临走之前，他把这个波搞乱整个社区。所以说我们在这方面，不是说政府改道对我们有什么关系，但是他真正接触到我们当地需求的是什么 ？OK， 希望大家共同努力嘛。Thank you.
So he's saying he's been doing business over 13 years in this neighborhood. He's very familiar, and also this plan just really doesn't work for the community because he knows it very well. And also, he say whatever your numbers may look good, but it's behind the desk. It's on the computer. It's not a daily life here. You're talking about family and lives. And he said you guys report to de Blasio administration, but he only has 2-3 more months, and then no one gonna hold him accountable. So you guys need to hold. You don't put people's life in the front line. You guys need to really take this into account and think about people's life. And this plan just doesn't work. Right. One more.
法上的问题到现在为止一塌糊涂，对，造成我们整个社区的影响。 现在第二个就是在部人。
All right, hold on. 等一下，因为我们还有现场直播，所以要等一下。He's saying just one more, emphasize. DOT made a plan change in Flushing, which is also another Chinatown in New York City, and that was such a mess and hurts business, hurts the seniors there. So they do not want to see it repeated here. So. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to stay within the 2 minutes, and I just have a couple points, so I just want to make sure that I get them all. So thank you, CB10, for offering the opportunity. So I guess being in the community for over 30-some years, I fully agree that there are traffic problems on 7th and 8th Avenue. But however, instead of offering a solution, basically you are creating more problem for our community. A couple things that I want to point out. We don't mind having one-way street, but we are having problem with a one-lane traffic for 7th and 8th Avenue. I just cannot picture how the problem would be as far as the traffic, double parking, and so on and so forth. So definitely will be problematic for us. We don't mind by lanes, but however, we have a problem with a 6 feet protected bike lane plus the 5 feet buffer. That will be killing our business. So we do have a problem with that. By taking away almost 200 parking spots from our community, and you are anticipating that there will be no double parking for the loading and unloading trucks, I don't think that would be possible. I don't know how you got the idea. And the reason there are so many overcrowding among the sidewalks, because there's lack of enforcement for the illegal vendors and all the merchants I think being placed on 8th Avenue and 7th Avenue. By expanding the sidewalk, actually we are just telling the illegal street vendors, come on in, you can set up tables and chairs. So definitely there's a no-no for our community. Is that right? Also, because of the COVID-19, because of the Asian hate crimes, actually I think the business as well as the community has been really suffering. And by you eliminating the parking spots, by you creating a situation where we are seeing bottlenecking from 65th Street down to 60th Street and seeing that losing the parking spot and seeing all the problem, basically I think you are creating a major problem for 8th Avenue. And that is why in about 2 weeks we were able to collect over 20,000 signatures, petitions to oppose your proposal. In less than 1 week, over 95% of the merchants said no to your proposals. And the reason they were responding so aggressively because your proposal is really killing them. So what happened? What did you do? So you ignore the 20,000 petition that we dropped to the DOT headquarters? So what did you do with the 95% survey, business survey that are all saying no to the proposals? What did you do with them? Probably you throw them away. Now, my question is, what do we have to do to make you understand and listen? That is my question. Thank you.
Can I just emphasize one thing? His name is Paul Mann. He's the president and CEO from BCA, which is where you do your survey. You do your survey in his senior centers. Yes, people want change. They want better. They want the traffic issue got fixed. But you can see his people, the community came out. This one doesn't fix. So just want to put it to the point.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Rosita Chen, and I agree with you when you first point out that the reason you want to change the runway because you want to eliminate the traffic congestion and auto accident. But the way you change doesn't make it better, it makes it worse. I want everybody to know. You point out all the point, and they're not going to listen to you. Because de Blasio already passed the bill. Who's going to break the contract? Who's going to be responsible for that? Nobody will do it. So I believe that we are wasting our time to hear tonight. That's why we have to go to de Blasio and tell him this is not going to work, okay? So I believe that everyone tonight is wasting the time to hear point out all the detail. But they're going to listen. They're not going to do it. They're not going to change it. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Just a quick question. Are you going to respond? Are you going to respond to the? Are you going to respond?
We're going to. Yeah.
Have you heard? What we need to do and it doesn't work. What's your response?
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you? Yeah.
No. Well, let's give them a chance to respond. There's a lot coming at you. So.
Yep. We understand that the plan that we are showing today, we see the response to it, that we hear you all. We are going to be, the next steps here, we are going to be taking this same proposal to Community Boards 7 and 12 to give them a chance to view the plan and respond to it.
You will get the same thing.
Hold on. I don't know.
As we give these proposals, we are listening to the feedback that we are getting, and we are taking that into consideration and listening to what everybody here is saying. We don't have an answer for what the next steps are at this time. What our plan is now is we want to give the community board process the opportunity to play out. We want to make sure that all of the three community boards hear the presentation as it's originally proposed before we come back with updates to the plan. So that is why we're here, and I understand that many people are frustrated to hear the same presentation again. But we are here to give this so that the community board process can play out. We are not ignoring any of the voices that we hear tonight and that we have heard throughout this whole process. So thank you.
So are you going to start your project after October the 10th?
We don't know. We do not have a plan to start.
I'm so sorry, kick me out. This is the first opportunity and my only opportunity to talk to them, because I'm so sure that after this meeting, I'm not going to see you again, and you're going to start the project after October 10th. So what do we have to do to make you listen and understand?
Hold on.
But you're not doing anything.
It's all dependent on what we're hearing
Hold on.
from you. We're not doing anything right now,
So
okay?
are you telling me that you are not going to start your project in October?
We can't say that because we have to go to the community board process.
I am sure that you're getting the same thing.
When you're doing this, going through the hardcore of Chinatown, why you don't have a Chinese translator or even a language support?
Yep. So in our two most recent public meetings, we had lots of translation. Tonight's meeting was run by Community Board 10. This was and said that DOT does not have translators for the meeting. Tonight's meeting is not organized by DOT. We are invited by Community Board 10.
Yeah, I'm the one community board arranged, but isn't the presentation part should supposed to come out from DOT? His question about the presentation part.
You don't want us to understand.
You should have something they can understand. So that's the whole presentation about.
OK， 问题二，你们说了这么多东西，一大堆信息，说要改善我们的社区，可是我们的车位被减少了183个，你们毫不在乎，没有解决方案。可我看到你们写的是增加了95个新的收费车位，这就是你们真正想要的。你们想要就是从我们的社区获得利益，而不管我们社区的任何死活。
So he's saying from your proposal, you totally can see you're taking away 100. You say you want to help the community, you want to make sure it's safer, it's better for the quality of life, but you're taking away 185 parking spots by adding 93 or 95 meters when the cities generate revenue from people's pocket. You're not helping us.
Thank you.
So, obviously, a lot of questions, comments. When the committee gets together and we send you guys questions, comments, and things like that, is the plan to respond with a plan of action, or is it, what are the steps here? Like what can we expect to get, the community some answers?
他在问，这个是交通委员会委员主席，所以他在问在程序上面，因为刚刚交通局的人说他要照程序必须跟10解释一次，跟7解释一次，再跟12解释一模一样的方案，所以我们还要再来3次，所以他就问，那在程序上面你解释完了以后，然后呢
We're going to take the feedback from tonight, all the other community boards, and after that feedback, then we're going to have a plan that we're going to implement. We will definitely let you know. As I know and Josephine knows, any letter that comes from the community board has to be answered. So if you come to us with suggestions or ideas, we definitely will take that into consideration.
In July, we have so many meetings, Zoom meeting,
right.
Assembly have a complaint, lawsuit, everything like that. But today you come back without any change in your plan.
Because that, and I think we explained it. No,
this is a little, this is a little crazy.
No, let me explain the situation. We had to come to the community board with our original plan. That's the plan we have to come to the community boards with. We always have to do this. This is a mandate that we had to do. And there was a lawsuit that told us That's what we had to do. So that's what we're doing.
Three presentations,
So-
and then you just move forward.
Right.
After the
lawsuit-
presentations, we'll have next steps. We don't know what the next steps are, but we're not going to be able to give you next steps until after the 3 presentations, at which point we will
I think
be
the
making
frustration
decisions
is that, yes, the lawsuit said that, and the law says that the Department of Transportation has to present to the community boards. It didn't say the June plan, it just said a plan, the presentation. And, right, we are advisory. So what we're asking is, because of all the upsetment here, and it is with 3 boards, and there is a lot of concern here, the question I'm hearing, we just really want an answer to, is will you come back before you implement the plan with a new proposal with changes?
Thank you. That's what we want.
基本上我们区经理就是说，在法律上他们必须要跟社区委员会做说明，但不代表要用这一份说明。他们可以听过我们声音以后做新的说明，但是他们没有。那第二就是接下来他问的是，他们会不会在3个委员会都做完说明以后，如果有更新，如果有调整，他们会不会在执行这个计划之前，再跟社区委员会再解释一次新的计划
？There's no way for us to give you Josephine. There's no way for us to give you a definite answer right now. We have to first go to the other community boards. After we get that information, we will bring it back, and then a decision will be made on how the next steps will take place. We don't have that answer tonight.
All right, I actually
you can keep asking it, but we can't give you an answer.
Right. All right, process-wise, Leroy, because you said this is the original plan, but this is your first time present to the community board. You do not need to stick with this one.
I didn't say we're going to stick with this one. What I'm saying to you is, after this presentation, we're going to make the presentations to the other boards. After we get all that information.
You already had 2 public sessions on Zoom, and you choose to stay with the original. The law does not require original.
Okay.
The next week is going to be the same.
Dean.
What we can do is this.
Dean.
Get all our elected officials, every single one of them, to say no and stop the plan. I have a solution for you, DOT.
One second.
Don't depend on DOT. Get our political elected officials, every one of them, to say no, and then they'll stop.
Yeah, because it's getting, by 9. So we're going to take, I saw 1 and then 2, and then we're going to have to,
我们会议在9点就要结束哈，这是之前就有沟通的，所以在这2位发言以后就结束了。
Hello, I live in this neighborhood about 30 years, okay, and I moved in 1991. I saw this community build up and the business. When I moved in here, there was so many crime, people killing more than the car accident. Okay, it's true. You look at the record. I think tonight I have a solution. Okay, DOT, listen. And the MTA agents, please. We have an N-train corridor, right? That huge area, we could use it. We could use it for parking or for other reason. Then provide a shuttle bus. Because I'm a mechanical engineer, okay? I design things and roadway. Oh, by the way, let me ask you, DOT, did you design this according to the federal spec DOT? Yes or no? No, you're wrong. You look at the spec again. All the size is wrong. Okay.
I'll make this real quick. My question to you guys, right? From what I understand, I know I was part of the meeting from the beginning, me, Paul, and Louis Lou, even back in July and June and stuff. My question is, what I understand, this started by a community board. This request started by a community board. Can you give some background of which community board actually started this so they know the history, why you guys are doing this?
Yeah, so the history is Community Board 7 in 2003 asked us to study a one-way conversion at the time of 7th and 8th Avenue. At the time, we looked into it, we said no. They asked us again in 2015, I believe. We again looked at it and then said no again. However, what it changed after then is there are two things that changed. One, 8th Avenue became a Vision Zero priority corridor, and two, we developed tools that we did not have in our toolbox at the time. But the history is that they asked us to study conversions, and at that time we had looked into it and said no.
So Irene, I just want to say in response to that is that CB7 told me something different. So I think that should be asked at CB7. I can tell you that recorded in writing, we have responses both from DOT in both of those years, and both times it was not feasible. It went to 60th Street, not to 65th Street, which is in Community Board 10. And there were reasons that were listed, enumerated why it was unsafe. And many of those concerns we have today that were raised. So I think that question really should be answered by CB7. I don't want to speak for them because there's some confusion between what they asked for and what they requested. So I just wanted to clarify that, since my colleagues aren't here.
简单的解释一下，基本上他就是问基本上他就是问为什么这个背景解释一下 DOT， 他 DOT 的解释是在2003年跟2015年的时候，第7社区委员会有曾经问他们评估一下八大道改单向这个计划。那当初这2年他们评估以后都是觉得不可以，做不到，不能实行。现在他说为什么可以？因为他们第一社区有改变，第二他们有新的规划跟新的计划，然后八大道的交通意外太多了，所以在他的市政府的这个 Vision Zero 就是减少交通意外的这个计划里面，八大道进入到那个计划里面，所以他们现在就可以针对八大道做计划的改变。但是我们第10社区委员会区经理有解释，因为我知道在沟通上面，第7社区委员会跟他们要求做的问卷跟调查不一定是叫他们做这样子的计划，所以他们是不是有交通局有在推卸责任推给第7社区委员会？这个要9月21号第7社区委员会会有另外一个会议的时候，欢迎大家可以在上面由第7社区委员会来回答，因为这不是这个社区委员会提出来的。
So one more, so come on up.
3位官员好，你翻译一下。3位官员好，各位侨领、各位社团，大家好，晚上好。我是美国纽约温州同乡会会长吴文光。我今天来说几句是很温和的话，我就是替我们这些乡亲发声的。你对他说。
没关系，你继续，我一次讲完。
因为呢，我们温州乡亲在这里很多，八大道呢。那个飞龙呢，好几节都是我们温州人开的，对吧？他都是对我说，他说会长，你要出声。他说好像这个八大道要改建了，他改道了。他说，前段时间疫情这么严重，他说那个房租不能讲，他说什么开支不能讲，他说现在等要好一点，他说这个车道要改了，他说我们这个生意肯定会下降，他说这个等于说就是要我们的命。你知道，好像我们在 Flushing， 我这个温州乡镇在 Flushing 很多的吧？那个民事局当时也是这么样，等好几年了，现在就是后来马上把它改了，说车不能开了。现在很多乡亲对我说，会长，我们现在生意已经掉了1半多了。他说房租不能小，什么东西开支都不能少。所以说呢，他说就是意思说，别的话好像种族歧视的话，好像欺负我们中国人的这句话不用说了，对吧？对。
OK。 So basically, he's the president of Wenzhou Association. Wenzhou is a town from China, which is in South China, and where they run like small business, restaurant, and supermarket. A lot of them run those category business here. So he's saying he's the association of the president, and all his members who live around here know about this plan. They're very, very concerned because all the expenses are going higher, and but because of this pandemic and the anti-Asian hate crime, they're losing the customer. They try to survive, but it's so hard for them already. But with taking the parking spot away, making loading, unloading, and people need to pay, people were reluctant to come in with the one-way, one travel lane. It just makes their customer harder to come in to shop here. So they have no way to survive. And for example, Flushing is basically the same. There's no private car can go in, so the business over there is dying, and they do not want to see it happen here.
还有就是说，现在我最后的要求就是出于我们的乡亲的呼声，就是你们改正一定要经过三思啊，因为你这个肯定要，好像我们大家住在这里的，你们住在 office 不知道，我们住在这里的，我们就是一定要体谅我们这些乡亲的身心。谢谢。
So he said, when you decide this plan, you really need to base on the community's needs. It has to reflect their needs, not what you see on the computer. It has to from their needs.
All right, thank you so much. So we have to end at this point. We have to be out of here in a couple of minutes. I want to thank you so much to the DOT and to everyone who came tonight. Thank you for your questions, your comments, and your concerns. Please, if you didn't get a chance to say what you wanted to say, you need to reach out to us. You know where to find us via website, email, Josephine at the office.
The email is bk10@cb.nyc.gov. This meeting is live streamed. There's also blue sheets in the back. And also, I think, Irene, we have everyone that signed up in advance on an email blast list, and we will keep you updated every step of the way.
We will look at all the comments. The committee.
因为场地我们之前有讲好，我们就是到9点，我们要遵守。现在还有时间，所以赶快我们要跟大家解释的是，如果你有发言，你想发言还没有机会发言，没有关系，你可以跟我讲，你可以跟社区委员会讲，他等一下会有个 email 出来，或者是后面会有一个蓝色有中文的，你写在上面，我都看得到，我看到了，我会翻译给他们。你们有各种方法让他们知道，因为接下来他们会投票，所以你们不用太担心。交通局的人已经听到你们讲的话了。接下来你们要做的是把你们的意见写在那个蓝色的纸上面，收集起来。社区委员会会把你们的意见整理成一个报告，以后交给他们。交通局在程序上面必须根据社区委员会提供的报告修正计划。我们会强迫他们。
We will keep you informed every step of the way. The committee will meet again. We promise we will hear from you, and the DOT will hear from us and all of us. So we will keep everybody informed. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and thank you for everyone. My first meeting was quite an experience, but thank you so much. Thank you.